Hi, Assalamualaikum and good day everyone. For today our group is going to explain about Rogerian Argument. So I'm going to be explaining about the definition. According to Nordquist 2019, Rogerian Argument is a negotiating strategy in which common goals are identified and opposing views are described as objectively as possible in an effort to establish common ground and reach an agreement. Purdue University stated that this model is a form of argumentative reasoning that aims to establish a middle ground between parties with opposing viewpoints or goals. Rogerian argument is also known as Rogerian rhetoric, Rogerian argumentation, Rogerian persuasion, and empathic listening. And now we'll explain about the behind story of the Rogerian model. The Rogerian model of argument was developed by Carl Rogers, an American psychologist, and was adapted to rhetoric writing by scholars Richard Young, Alton Becker, and Ken White in the textbook Rhetoric, Discovery and Change 1970.
Next, as for the usage, Rogerian argument is also used in daily conversations to negotiate with your friends, family, or even romantic partners. For example, choosing a movie to suit both you and your partner's preference. If your partner wanted to watch a comedy, for instance, and you wanted to watch some romance movie, a compromise can be made by watching a rom-com which offers bits of both side preferences. It is highly noted that the Rogerian argument is rarely used in academic settings where various empirical or theoretical notions of truth are much more valuable than practical advantages of the Rogerian method. As for the advantage, due to Rogerian arguments being viewed as dialectic in nature, practicing it allows you to enhance the ability of understanding complex relations of opposing viewpoints and provides tools to address such discordance sympathetically. Thus, this argument is good for daily conflict resolutions at home or even at workplaces. As for the disadvantage, Rogerian argument heavily relies on the compromise between both parties, and because of this, it may have undesirable endings where the opposing party is unwilling or unable to compromise on the terms given, or if they only care on focusing on winning the argument. It may also lead to lousy solutions if the opposing party is strong, since in this particular case you will have to sacrifice some of your superior goals to accommodate the opposing party's inferior ones.
So for the objectives of Rogerian model of argument, in Rhetoric, Discovery and Change 1970, Young, Becker and Pike stated that the fundamental objectives of the Rogerian argument are as follows, which the first one, to reassure the reader that he is understood. So the first objective is to show the reader that you understand the complexities of the argument and have listened respectfully to what they have to say. And this is critical since the success of the Rogerian argument is dependent on the cooperation and collaboration of all parties that are involved in the argument. The second objective is to set forth the area in which he considers the reader's position to be valid. So the second objective puts this insight into action by seeking to find a symbiotic solution. And the last objective is to persuade him to believe that he and the writer share similar moral qualities, such as honesty, integrity, and goodwill, and as aspirations, the desire to discover a mutually acceptable solution. So the third objective is to build ethos and rapport between the parties. So if audiences believe they have a common value system with the speaker or the writer, they are more inclined to accept the terms of any solution that are presented. So to add on that, actually while each of these objectives are important, Young, Becker and Pike stress that they are just objectives and not steps. So therefore, one should not necessarily view these objectives as occurring in a linear or step-by-step process. So the authors present a synthesis discussion of what a successful Rogerian argument should contain, but nonetheless they avoid any formalized organization. Instead, the structure of the argument should be defined by the speaker himself or herself, and it should be altered and adapted based on the rhetorical situation and at hand. And in effect, users of the strategy purposely eschew conventional persuasive structures and techniques, since these devices tend to create a sense of threat, which is precisely what the writer intends to avoid. So next is about the contents of Rogerian model of argument. So as we mentioned earlier, the Rogerian argument does not have a formalized structure. However, the following examples here provides a framework for thinking about how you may arrange your argument. So a successful Rogerian argument will likely include the followings here. Like the first one, introduction. So here we present the topic as a problem to solve together rather than an issue. The second one, opposing position, displaying that you are aware of your opposition's positions and objectives. The third one, context for opposing position. This is where you present your opposition's opinions in a fair and accurate manner to show that you are aware of the situation in which their position is also valid. And the next one is your position, where you present your opinion objectively with clarity and fairly as to convince the opposition. The fifth one, context for your position, where you show the opposition context in which your position is also valid. And the last one is benefits, by pointing out how the opposition might benefit from adopting some of your position's elements.
Now we will continue with the example of Rogerian model of argument. We will take the side that shows why technology should be allowed in the classroom, while considering the other side point of view that shared their opinion of technology is a distraction during academic time. In conclusion, we should be able to arrive at a conclusion that considers both arguments and develops a solution that benefits both sides while still achieving our goal of allowing technology usage in the classroom. For the introduction, you need to introduce the topic and tell why it is important for a discussion to be made. Lay out both sides of the argument and the benefits of it, and discuss the implications to consider a solution that will benefit both parties. For the opposing position, you need to introduce the cons of technology usage in the classroom. List down the cons made by the opposing side and discuss it. Some of the cons may include how technology is a distraction during classes and often used to avoid the lesson in order to play games or to catch up trends in social media. Context for opposing position. Provide distant details that show the benefits of their argument. These contexts are to show that we are considering their part of argument in the hope that our opinions and side of judgment will be judged the same way too by them. Here we can include statistics and testimony from both instructors and students, or even examples from the media that shows how technology is indeed a distraction during academic time. For your position, you need to introduce our views on why technology should be allowed in an academic setting. We should speak as objectively as possible in order to establish our moral beliefs as concerned, but also as an advised speaker. Solidify our position by accepting that there are certain situations where technology needs to be put away, but we should put it in the way of generally speaking. The presence of technology is indeed a positive change.
As for the context for your position, provide examples that are the opposite of the ones we shared for the opposing view. As an example, Testimonies from students who claim using technologies in classes help them out. The inclusion of research and scholarship that supports our view are welcome. Subtle demonstrations of our opposing party having failed to account for every possibility are welcome by choosing the examples carefully. In instance, we can include the accounts of students with learning disabilities who have struggled in class without their assistive technologies. As for the benefits, here all the points we had established throughout the argument will be used to appeal to the opposing party while finding the middle ground which benefits both parties. We should also acknowledge that some of the instructors will be displeased in the presence of technologies due to the belief that it provides distraction from the lesson. On the other hand, we should also maintain our view that these technologies can be productive tools during academic time and in rare cases, a virtual requirement for learning. The solution we provide, which is also the middle ground to benefit both parties, as for instance, the technology should be kept aside during the lecture portions in a lesson except for students with documented learning disabilities that require assistive technologies. This part of the solution pertain to the opposing party because in this way, the students will focus more in class without any distraction coming their way. The other half of the solution is pertaining to our side of view. When a class is moved from the lecture portions to activities, they should be able to have access to technologies for this will help for the students to effectively engage with the activities by organizing their thoughts and searching information. Now that the instructor has stopped lecturing, it will be easier for them to monitor their students' progress and engagement with the use of technology during the activities. It will also be greatly of help for the students for a more developed and better organized result in the future. That is all from us for Rogerian Argument task, and thank you for watching.